Establishing central control and preparing for rapid development immediately sets the tone for an active game. Instantly contesting the center and developing a piece, this knight prepares to challenge white's early territorial ambitions and offers flexibility for future development. Seizing the center with pawns, white asserts dominance and prepares to launch an assault on the queenside. Black prepares to develop their king's bishop, unlocking central control and opening lines for future piece activity. Developing a piece to pressure the center, preparing for further pawn advances and creating immediate control. Developing the bishop to pin the knight immediately introduces tactical complications and aims to disrupt white's central pawn structure. Unbalancing the center, the queen eyes weaknesses and discourages b5 while subtly preparing to exploit any hesitation. Boldly challenging white's queen and central pawn structure, this move ignites tactical fireworks. Opening a central diagonal for the queen and bishop, this pawn capture sacrifices a tempo for immediate material advantage. Recapturing with the knight initiates a spirited central skirmish, contesting key squares. Harnessing the pinned knight, white boldly seeks to dismantle black's central foothold and exploit the precariousness of the c5 pawn. Challenging white's bishop aggressively exposes black's king slightly to future tactics. Retreating the bishop, white maintains tension and eyes the kingside, preparing for potential pawn advances. The knight boldly infiltrates the center, challenging control and seeking tactical opportunities within white's pawn structure. Retreating the queen to safety, white relinquishes central influence for now, aiming to regroup behind this newly established pawn structure. Unbalancing the pawn structure now, forcing a recapture, disrupts white's queenside development and opens lines for activity. Unlocking the c-file for your rooks while shattering black's pawn structure opens aggressive avenues. Unleashing the knight into the enemy camp, it aims to disrupt white's coordination and exploit the weakened queenside. Trading this bishop creates doubled pawns, weakening black's kingside pawn structure for open lines. Reclaiming the center with the queen unlocks central files for potential action. Fortifying the central pawn structure and preparing for an active rook deployment along the open c-file. Suddenly exposing the king to a battery along the diagonal, black's queen becomes a rather vulnerable target. The queen's repositioning seeks to exploit the king's exposed diagonal and potentially trap the knight. Unlocking the queenside, this pawn advance offers greater scope for your bishop, but creates a structural weakness on c6. Developing the knight here aims to free the queen and potentially challenge black's pawn structure, though it momentarily neglects the kingside. Recentering the queen to face the kingside's castled king and prepare for central pawn breaks offers more active play than allowing white complete control of the d-file. Unleashing a pawn storm on the kingside, white aggressively seeks to dislodge black's knight, aiming to open lines towards the exposed monarch. A bold gambit seeking to disrupt white's queenside pawn structure by forcing a trade, but leaving black's king potentially exposed. Sacrificing the knight opens lines towards your king, a risky decision given the active queen. Reclaiming material often comes at the cost of a compromised pawn structure. White's kingside is now a sieve. Developing the bishop to guard the king's escape square and prepare for potential queenside action. Fortifying the queenside pawn structure, this maneuver simultaneously prepares to contest the open c-file and offers a defensive option should the king become exposed. Snatching that pawn opens a potentially dangerous diagonal towards your king, inviting sharp counterplay. Seeking queenside expansion, black ignores the pawn sacrifice and aims to disrupt white's central control. Castling now shores up the king's position and prepares to connect the rooks for future activity. Challenging white's queen development redirects the action towards the queenside, aiming to exploit the pawn structure. Seizing the pawn opens up avenues for your rook and offers a dynamic advantage.